Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to go on a journey to the absolute center of life itself.
All right, let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. You, a tiny bacterium, a giant pine tree. What could they possibly have in common? They seem worlds apart, right? But believe it or not, they all share one fundamental, incredible secret that connects every single living thing on this planet.
And that's it, right there. The answer is the cell. It's the basic blueprint, the foundational building block for all biology. We're talking everything from the simplest little organism to, well, the trillions of cells that make you, you.
Okay, so Section 1, Life's 3 Simple Rules. Let's dive right in. If we're really going to get what a cell is all about, we have to start with the universal laws that basically govern all of them.
It's pretty amazing. Scientists have managed to boil down the entire complex essence of what it means to be alive into this one fundamental concept. They call it the cell theory. And really, it's the absolute bedrock of all modern biology.
And this theory is built on just 3 core ideas. First, all living things are made of cells. Simple enough? Second, the cell is the simplest, most basic unit of life. You can't get any smaller. And third, all cells come from other cells. They don't just pop into existence. It might sound simple, but these 3 rules, incredibly powerful.
All right, Section 2, the 2 kingdoms of cells. So here's where it gets interesting. We've established that all life is made of cells, but it turns out there's a huge fork in the road. Not all cells are created equal, not by a long shot.
Basically, the entire cellular world is split into these 2 giant kingdoms. You've got your prokaryotes on one side. Think of these as the simple, minimalist cells like bacteria. Their DNA, it just kind of floats around freely inside. But then, on the other side, you've got the eukaryotes. These are the complex, highly organized cells that keep all their precious DNA tucked away safely inside a special compartment called a nucleus.
So that brings up a pretty obvious question, right? With this big divide between the simple and the complex, which one are you?
Yup, you guessed it. You are a eukaryote. Your body, along with every single plant, animal, and fungus on the planet, is made up of these complex, super organized cells. In fact, your body is like this massive, bustling civilization built from trillions of them.
Okay, Section 3, a tour inside the eukaryotic cell. So if we're made of trillions of these things, what's actually going on inside one? Let's take a tour, shall we? And to make it a little easier to grasp, let's imagine the cell is like a tiny, bustling city.
Our first stop in this cellular city has to be the command center, right? The brain of the whole operation. And that is the nucleus. Think of it as City Hall, the place that runs absolutely everything.
So just like a city hall, the nucleus acts as the central government and the main archive. Because inside, it holds the master blueprint for the entire organism. That's your DNA. And it uses those blueprints to send out orders and control every single thing the cell does, from growing to making repairs. Now, every city needs power, right? You can't have a city without power plants. And inside our cellular city, that absolutely crucial job belongs to thousands of tiny little powerhouses called the mitochondria. And what these little guys do is fundamental to, well, us staying alive. They take the glucose from the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe, and through a process called cellular respiration, they turn it into pure, usable energy for the cell. It's no wonder that your most active cells, like your muscle cells, are just jam-packed with mitochondria. They need all that energy.
Okay, so we've got a government in power. What's next for our city? Infrastructure. You need roads, you need highways to move things around. And that's exactly the job of the endoplasmic reticulum. It's the cell's vast, interconnected highway system.
But don't just picture an empty road. This thing is way more active. It's like a highway system combined with a massive factory floor. It's a 3D network of tubes that's always busy, transporting materials like proteins, helping to produce hormones in your brain, and even getting involved in the muscle contractions that let you walk and talk. All right, so products are being made, they're being moved around, but what happens next? Well, they have to be sorted, packaged up, and shipped out. And for that, our city has the Golgi bodies. You can think of them as the cell's very own postal service or logistics hub.
This is basically the finishing and shipping department. The Golgi bodies collect materials, process them, and then package them all up to be sent out of the cell. This is exactly why cells that are all about secreting stuff, like the ones in your gut that make mucus, have a ton of these Golgi bodies. It's their whole job.
All right, section 4, plant versus animal cells. So we've just had a great tour of a, let's say, generic eukaryotic cell. But now let's zoom in on a really important distinction within that big eukaryote kingdom, the major differences between plant cells and animal cells.
Now, these share a lot of the same parts we just talked about, the nucleus, the mitochondria, all that stuff. But there are 3 really big defining features that plant cells have that animal cells just don't.
First up, the cell wall. This is this super tough, rigid outer layer made of something called cellulose. It's what gives plants all their support and structure. I mean, it's literally why a giant redwood tree can grow hundreds of feet tall without needing a single bone.
Okay, number 2, plants have this huge water-filled sac right in the middle called the large central vacuole. When this thing is full of water, it pushes out against that rigid cell wall, creating pressure. And that pressure is what keeps the plant's leaves and stems all firm and upright. You know when your houseplant starts to look all sad and droopy? That's because it's thirsty, and this vacuole has lost water, so the pressure inside its cells has dropped. And last, but definitely not least, we have the most game-changing difference of all, chloroplasts. These things are incredible. They're basically tiny solar panels inside the plant cell. They're what makes plants green, and they allow them to do something truly magical called photosynthesis, turning sunlight, water, and air into their own food. This is the superpower that separates the plant kingdom from the animal kingdom. It's something we just can't do.
So let's just wrap this all up with a final thought. Your body contains something like 30 trillion of these cellular cities. And right now, as you're listening to this, every single one of them is at work. They're building, they're repairing, they're communicating, turning your last meal into energy. So the final question is, what are they building today?